3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. Today, before we get to the guest, if you want to buy yourself some merch, 3000 podcast merch right here. You can get it from our big cartel. It's all done by the guys at High Tees, highteescreenprinting.com.au. What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a DJ, a producer, a podcaster, an all-round good guy, DJ Rellik. Rellik, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
I said the podcaster thing because I'm only 12 months into this, but you've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, about 7 or 8 years now.
That's
jumping the turnstile with my little brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us about Turnstyle, man, because podcasting is something I didn't start listening to about 3 or 4 years ago, but you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, well, my brother got onto it ages ago, and he's just like, oh, you got to listen to this and listen to that. And, it was just one of those things that I started copying him, listening to it, and then we're just like, man, we've got to do one.
Yeah.
So when we were kids, we used to pretend there was a studio audience always watching us. Yeah. And so we used to do these little shticks, and even when we were watching TV and stuff like that, we would do our own little commenting on what we're watching.
Yeah.
And we always were saying, "This is what is this? What's this thing that we're doing? What's the thing that we're going to be doing?" And so now we're actually doing it.
You're doing it, yeah.
It turned into something.
There you go. And aside from your musical endeavours that people may or may not know about,
Yep.
Anyone who's watching this would have heard your work because you are the person responsible for the theme song for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This one,
Yeah.
which is sick, man. You nailed
It's cool.
it.
It's good fun, man.
Yeah.
I love little projects like that.
Yeah.
Always doing stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, you nailed that with the whole Melbourne sort of sound. So if people aren't familiar with your work, they've definitely heard it if they're watching this now, which is cool.
Well, I've done just over 200 albums.
Yeah, which we're definitely getting to.
Yeah. Try to be cornerstone. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning, man. Where does a young kid like yourself grow up, and how do you get into a career's life's work of music?
Well, I started off doing bands and stuff like that. Mates would play guitar. Everyone was into metal.
Whereabouts are you? Just geographically.
That was in Mount Waverley.
Yep.
So I went to Salesian College in Chatty. And lots of musos back then. So like it was I never got into the graft, never got into the skating and all that kind of stuff, and never could do an ollie.
Yeah.
So I quit skating straight away. I still can't do an ollie. But you kind of, when you're a kid, you kind of fall into something that you can sort of call your own, but that clicks into what everybody's sort of into, you know.
Yep.
So start off with bands and all that kind of thing. And then pretty close, about 91 to 93, started making rap with another mate.
Which is early.
Super early, because we were listening to the radio, and there was like a lot of Aussie rappers on then, and we were like, wow, we could do this.
So what radio are you hearing Aussie rappers in 91, 92?
Triple R.
Yep.
Triple R. Keris Show.
Yep.
So we were pretty determined to do it, but didn't know how to do it. And so we were going from tape to tape and play
like
tours,
a boombox type scenario.
Yeah, just making tapes, and then you get whatever beat we put together from pausing and unpausing, and then just rap through some headphones, and then just sort of made a tape back then. But then sort of off the back of that, met a guy that could rap, adds one. And he basically sort of got us making a bit better stuff, I reckon. And then we kind of went off the back of that, you know what I mean? Just kept making stuff.
So it's interesting that the influences were Aussie before the American influences were coming in at that stage.
Yeah, I was right into hip hop, Public Enemy and all that kind of shit.
Stuff, yeah.
But there was Boom Bap, the KRS album, and on the cover he was holding headphones, you know, the original Boom Bap. And so we're like, oh man, you can do that. You can turn the headphones into a microphone. That's unreal. So it made it instantly accessible.
Yeah.
And my brothers used to, my older brother's a guitarist, and he was doing recordings onto a video cassette. So using the tape as an audio recorder as opposed to video.
That's some lo-fi shit.
Yeah, it was definitely fucking cool, but really, really high quality stuff. So we're
Really?
like, let's make a demo.
Because I guess it's using the RCAs and the...
it's straight in, but it's going to tape. So, and there's a, proper audio section on the tape for that. So we kind of put together a little bit of a rap tape for that.
Do you have a name?
Back then we were 2BM, Too Bloody Mad.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which sounds a bit like a radio station as well.
Yeah, it does actually. That's 2FM.
Yeah,
we thought about that. But yeah, so I sort of kept leaning on that time because I was right into the idea of the 4-track recorder, like the little Tascam thing that you could actually do.
Which was like a home studio back then.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I managed to get my hands on. A mate of mine had one of those, so I knew what to get. So I got that.
You had to go to like Tandy or something like that?
Yeah, something Tandy.
Tandy.
And and then we were just finding little instrumentals, taping stuff off the radio and, like just rapping over it.
Yeah.
I used to rap back in the day. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't do it now.
No.
Nothing I wrote was ever that good, but it was just a part of making it. You know what I mean? Like it was the process, and that's kind of why I'm still into it now.
Were you from the early days when you figured out rapping wasn't your thing? Did you lean more into the producer DJ side of it early?
Yeah, because I had more fun doing that kind of stuff. And then in the 90s, we're going lots of raves and all that kind of stuff. And a mate of mine had a DJ set up, and then we'd just go over there and he's just like, "Oh, have a crack at it, man." Mm-hmm. And then straight away, pulled a mix off straight away. And I'm like, this is all right.
Like with turntables?
Turntables, yeah, belt drive turntables.
And what kind of mixer? Just like, I love this stuff.
It's just like a realistic, little realistic thing. But
like a 4-channel sort of one.
Turn sideways.
Because those early realistics didn't even have like a crossfader, did they? They had the
up and down.
Yeah.
So if you put them sideways, you could almost treat.
Yeah.
You have to go double-handed on that one. But but that was good fun. And then straight away started to save up to get some turntables. Ran with belt drives for fucking years, man.
Yeah. And for people that don't understand DJing and turntables, belt drive means that there's literally a rubber band inside, which means it goes. So the latency and when you let it go, it's not going to be great.
Yeah, no, it isn't. So, I trained my hands to do that, and I had mum and dad's hi-fi system. Didn't have a mixer. I was using their sound system, which had an on and off switch, and I could switch from one to the other and turn the scratching on and off.
Yeah.
And then that kind of worked. So I went with that as well.
Okay.
But I always admired.
So it's a kill switch essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I always admired dudes doing all the production on the one thing. Like I always sort of desired to do the drums, the guitar, the bass, and then make tracks.
Yeah.
So I did that for years, man. I was still using the Tascam thing in like 2006.
Really?
Yeah, I just used it all the way up.
Wow.
Never had a computer or any of that kind of stuff.
So that just had like RCA inputs, so you could have 4 tracks there.
Yeah.
And then sort of master it within
that.
that.
You record one line and then you can rewind it and then go to track 2.
How much memory has that got?
Only enough for 4 lines, but then you can take
in 2006.
But then you could dump those 4 lines onto one line, and then dump that over to one, and then you got another 3. Yeah. So you could get it. It would degrade.
So when someone says "send me the stems," you're like, "Nah,
there's no stems. There is no stems." Yeah. That wasn't until much later.
Much later. Yeah. So where are you sourcing records from in this early 90s, mid 90s sort of time?
Brashes,
yeah. At Chadston there?
At Chatty.
Yeah.
Mate of mine used to steal 12 inches and glasses frames. We used to sell them at school.
Yeah.
But get records, and my brothers, everybody's in my family is pretty musical. Mm-hmm. So there was already a collection, and when we were growing up, Mum used to when we were playing Lego and all that kind of stuff, she'd always chuck on records, and she was into soul and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. So you got a base of sample bank
there. Yeah. And I always knew like the kind of stuff that I wanted to make straight away. Like I wanted to, everything we heard, I wanted to be a part of.
Yep.
Which is only on reflection. I wouldn't have been conscious of it then, but I knew that I wanted to like be part of it somehow. Yeah. Play the guitar on it or something like that,
For sure, man. And then I guess as you start to tune your musical ear, you're probably noticing, that hip hop song
definitely-
samples that
Yeah,
record.
yeah. That happened a fair bit.
Yeah.
But much later when I became a DJ, so I started to dig for stuff and then try to specifically buy stuff that I knew had been sampled.
Yep.
You know, just so that I could own it. You know.
So, yeah, which is sick. We'll get to that, but I like this Chadston Brashes sort of journey.
Yeah.
So you're sourcing music from there, and I guess, it's a very pre-internet time here. So you are listening to stuff you're hearing on a Saturday night. You're trying to find that music. You're trying to recreate it. What else happens in this sort of musical exploration?
So I started switching from doing gigs with bands to DJing solo, and so
With a mobile DJ setup,
mobile
sort of thing.
DJ setup. Yeah, it was pretty rank. I first gig ever, I had this massive speaker and I was trying to move it over and I dumped it straight onto the mixer, crushed the crossfader. So I was forced to use the upfaders for that and sort of got through the whole thing. It was a hellish gig. I don't think they paid me, but yeah, just like so I had the guy that actually got me into DJing. He was like crazy record selection, and so he would reluctantly, lend me a crate of records, and then I'd go and DJ with that, and then it's good fun.
There you go. So and at that stage, are you writing the tempo of the records? You're writing what records on the labels? Because that's like...
Yeah, it wasn't so much labels or any of that kind of stuff. It was just like what I was pretty much into. So, and then leaning heavily on those Lego days, you know what I mean? So having a feel for that vibe of what we grew up with, and then sort of always going off the back of that. And then I really liked the scratching parts in songs, but never knew what it was.
Right.
I always thought it was some kind of trigger thing, or
it's
and
like
in a lot of cases it was.
Yeah.
Just like pre-recorded trigger.
Yeah, in the 90s, definitely. You go back to the 80s and you see Herbie Hancock, and then you realise that record is, when you see that on Rage, you're like, that's how it does.
Yeah, well, that's you're talking about Rocket.
Yeah.
That tripped me out when I found out it was Herbie Hancock, and then it's experiences like that where later on you find out who Herbie Hancock is, and he's the Rocket guy.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, no, it's the other way around. He did Rocket. He was that guy.
Well,
you know what I mean?
and that was a totally interesting time for music, because you had people that were in the hip hop sense that were pioneers, like him and Malcolm McLaren, but they were actually making different kind of music.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the spin out of it.
That's it. And Malcolm McLaren is very sampley. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's that? Is that triggered? And then you put the DJing and that together, and it's And then working out ways to recreate it was always a good part of the process,
For sure. And then, so you start to DJ more, and at that point, CDs are not far off in the mid...
It was, because I started DJing probably 27 years ago. So it started off with just straight up belt drives. It took forever to get proper turntables.
Yeah.
So I was doing heaps of house parties and all that kind of stuff. Wasn't playing raves or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Compilation records, so you get a few tracks in there.
So you got a few tracks in there. And then I was getting a heap of house parties. So there was always a need to have to be very like eclectic, know how to keep them happy and still steer in the direction that I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the true art of being a commercial DJ. You want to keep people happy, but somehow give them a little bit of education in the process.
Absolutely. Always the education.
Yeah.
And most people don't fucking get it.
No.
I found that out pretty quickly that most of your audience, not your audience, most audiences don't know shit, and that's why they're there to see you do it, because you are educating the whole time.
That's where, without sounding like a grumpy old DJ guy, the art form is lost a little bit, because at the start it was you were a tastemaker and you were selecting, and then as the club or nightclub or pub scene has progressed, you were there as a slave to serve the drunk punters.
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly it, man.
Yeah.
And I was always came from the era of DJs where if they had a good track, you'd never find out what it is. They'd rip the label off or just wouldn't tell you.
You were getting promo copies or something.
Yeah, well, that's it. And then you just couldn't get it, and be years later till I got it, and accidentally discovered it later. I was like, that's what it is.
There it is. And we don't need to bore everyone with the disgruntled commercial DJ thing, but that's definitely a thing.
No, but like nowadays, because it's more about the equipment now. So it's, can you buy yourself into the thing? Like the latest mixer that came out is like $8,000 or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Rotary mixer or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just don't know how it's possible. It's just sort of like they've made music so accessible that there's too fucking much of it.
Yep.
And so kids can get that for nothing and just go absolutely nuts with that. But can you afford the gear? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's bizarre to think that. The one thing is about, especially if you're buying Pioneer stuff, is it will generally hold its value. So you buy something that is newer.
Yeah.
You're not throwing money away. If you buy the wrong brands, you definitely throw money away.
That's it. I went with Pioneer for my main mixer, 4-channel, so that I had more options. Again, with the Tascam concept, I wanted to have more on hand just in case there was drum machines that I could plug in or just add something different to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But stuck with that brand for ages. I think I used the same mixer for 15 years, and people were like, because people are like equipment junkies, you know what I mean? Like they just love to update. I never liked the update thing. I just wanted to get what I had. I wanted to use the absolute shit out of to the point where I was forced to work out what it does that nobody else is doing.
Yeah. Well, look, they're obviously just the standard, but if you get a good pair of 1200s, like I've got 1210. Mark II 1200s, and you could sell them more now than they were retail back in the day. Man. So what else can you say that about?
I'm still rocking the same ones. I've only ever fixed the RCAs on them.
Yeah, So if you buy the right stuff, it definitely will hold its value or appreciate. Nothing else appreciates.
And it's like my son who's always wanting a new soccer top or new cleats or whatever because he wants to play better. It's like, no man, it's like. Just go with what you got. Dude.
You've got totally.
Plus, it's too fucking expensive.
No, but you've got to. If you learn on the really ghetto stuff, then when you have the nice stuff, it's easy. Yeah. You can't do it the other way around.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then learning on the belt drives, switching to direct drive.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh man, this is super easy. So then I automatically had the room to experiment, and the feel was already there. I sort of knew what I was doing already.
Yep. Are you venturing out of Brash's now and going to DJ stores in the city or anything like that?
Yeah, so I struggled heaps with because I bought a house in like 2000, and we were like just saving heaps of money, and we used to like get our paychecks and chuck it in this little red folder, and like because we didn't know how to budget, but we were like allocating money into the thing. I called it the Red Menace.
Yeah.
And there was never any money to spare. And if there was money to spare, we'd pitch it in to go to a rave or to see DJs or whatever. So there was never really a lot of money to spare for records, and I pined over that for ages. It felt like I wasn't good enough unless I could get the stuff. Yep. So what I had, I used the absolute shit out of, and then just got good with what was at hand.
Yeah, it forced you to learn the fundamentals properly. Yeah,
absolutely, man, absolutely. So I mean, now I've got ridiculous amount of records. I have to turn records away, you know.
Yep.
But it's every. I made a point that every record that I got was something that I wanted or something that I could use.
Yep.
So I would go record shopping, and my mate would be buying like heaps of shit, and I'd get like 2 records. But then he would stop playing what he was playing to play the new, and I was still thrashing the old records. Like I thrashed Daft Punk for homework. I'm still playing it, man.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's great
for sure. So at this sort of stage, we're talking late 90s. You're doing some more. You're getting out
that's
of the
about
house
96,
party?
97.
Yeah.
And then I just got straight into gigs straight away because I just wanted to be active. Not so much because it was a source of money aside from having a job. Mm-hmm. Again, it was like something cool to grab onto because I couldn't skate, you know. Yeah. And for me, it was always I had to be touching the turntables for it to be like triggering the good response in me.
Yep.
So, like, I was straight away onto the cuts and going back to mum and dad's stereo.
Yeah.
I wanted to work it out properly and do it.
Yep.
And then shortly after that, in order to sort of break in to the scene, we reformed 2BM.
Yeah.
I think we were called what was it? 2MTCs, right?
What's that?
Too empty C,
okay.
or too much to comprehend.
Right.
And so we got the boys back together, and then went back to what we were doing, but with better equipment, a better thing. And I was
more knowledge.
And I was a DJ then. I was like, we want to start rapping, so doing it again, because where we left it off at a really good place, and it's it's still kicking off. Early 2000s, it was kicking off.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see myself really doing raves and stuff because I wasn't really into the clicky part of the scene. I was more like
the fun.
Yeah, the fun part, man. Waiting for the pass outs and hanging out.
Yeah.
So, but while I was doing house parties and stuff, there was a little side game of doing rap, doing hip hop.
Yeah.
And that sort of went from there. With that one of those guys' ads, we decided to do a record label, and then so that we could attach something to our name, because you got to have some bit of clout and maybe a logo on the back of a CD or
legitimizes it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the first one we did was on reel to reel.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, still got that.
And you recorded at home.
Yeah. Got a mate had a reel to reel. His dad had it. He was a jazz head, and he lent it to us for the weekend. And Ads bought this little sampler thing which did 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It was like an MPC, but just a self-contained unit. I can't remember what the brand was. That might have even been Tascam.
Yeah, it must.
Yeah, still got that in the roof.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we were able to, instead of doing piecing together beats on tape and making it all scrappy and stuff, we were able to create a loop, and then we'd just rap over that, and then at the end it was just sort of like, okay, do a few of those little things.
Yeah, and you're finding your own sort of things to cut on records you're
Yeah,
digging?
yeah, straight off vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the one I scratched the most was Tom Jones' Green Grass.
Yeah, wow.
He's like talking about grass, man.
Yeah.
Green grass. So I cut that for ages. But then sort of moving on from that, we were doing heaps of rap with those dudes, but it wasn't like the best stuff in the world, but still really fun to make and really fun to hang out. Mm-hmm. And then once you start doing gigs with dudes and you're the DJ, you get asked to DJ for them. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, you're at every gig, you know, and then you start playing for everyone.
Fun, yeah. So how does that work in that era? With are you? They're giving you instrumentals for you to play. How are you doing that at a live capacity?
At the start, I was collecting instrumentals, and then so on 12 inches and stuff, generally there was an instrumental on the other side, so I was doing a little bit of that, and then I had like Scratchy Seal on one side, and I was using that for scratches, and then the CD came in, the CDJs, and I already had a residency at in Richmond somewhere, and at the Grand Hotel.
Oh yeah, yep.
And CDs came out then. It was just like, oh man, because CD burners and everything. So then that collection went massive, and then I wasn't so reliant on carrying records around. I could keep records at home, and then create my own samples, burn them to CD, and then play them, and then have
you got a whole bank,
and it was just like, yeah, nuts.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always had the CDJs going and a turntable. Because I always went for the 4-track mixes, I was able to
do that.
Tap other stuff in, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was always moving around with that kind of stuff, and always trying to create something, something that I could throw more things into. It was always something that I could add to.
Stay busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's because before that, realistically, to do your own hip hop gigs, it becomes very hard from a DIY point of view because before there's CD players, what are you going to do? Press up your own instrumental vinyl? Do you know what I mean?
We considered it.
Yeah,
we considered it, but it's like thousands. What are you going to do? Have 150 copies of one record you want to play?
So you can play.
Yeah,
but
no one else wants.
But that's why obviously people weren't doing it that much because it just wasn't accessible.
Yeah. I mean, we've got onto the a new thing that's around. Oh, well, not a new thing. It's been around forever. But a couple of blokes around Australia do lathe cutting, so you can get one-off records.
Really?
So, yeah, absolutely. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you can get stuff cut to wax. It's a lathe, so the grooves aren't as deep, and you get less plays in it or whatever. But depending on what you put onto it, you can cut your own vinyl. But I've always wanted my own vinyl cutter.
That'd be cool.
Always wanted that.
Yeah. Obviously, we're jumping ahead, but you know, Serato's a game changer for all of that, which means that people can sort of tour around with all their instrumentals. But
did CDs for ages, man.
Yeah,
like so long.
But see, even like we're both in our 40s.
Yep.
So we've been around for long enough. When I first started DJing early 2000s, I had the Denon rack mount,
Yep.
With
rack bass. I've still got one of them.
Right there with so the CD thing was underneath, and there was no jog wheel. There was just a pitch bend.
Yeah, right.
Right. So that was.
You had to nudge that way.
Before, you could nudge it one way or the other. That was what I started with, right?
That's
now, but even then, people were like, "No, you play records. You don't come with your burnt CD folder." Do you know what I mean? That sort of argument of what is DJing, what isn't, was happening. That was in the late 90s, early 2000s, which is still continuing today. There's always been that new technology. That now that sounds like fucking prehistoric shit.
And everybody, most of what I get now is, I can't believe you're playing vinyl. Oh, I'm playing Serato. It's like kind of vinyl. You have to explain it, and then as you're explaining it, you feel like a dickhead. Yeah. Because you know.
Does it shit? Man, you shit me all the time. People.
Everything shits me.
No, but when people call turntables vinyls, and you're like, man, people go, you're playing the vinyls. You're like playing records. They're made of vinyl. They're like, no, but you've got the vinyl players. Like, what is?
I don't get it. I get a lot of. I get it. Guitarists get a lot of air guitarists. Saxophone dudes get a lot of air saxes, and we get a lot of that. Yeah. Oh my God! I can't believe he's doing it. Yeah. He's doing the things.
Things. But let's get back on track to the journey. So then the CDs that changed the game for DJing in general because instead of carrying fucking 3 crates of 150 records, which essentially not many of that is definitely playable because you might have, especially
that's it.
12 inches.
And you got to pick what you're gonna play on the night. You got to predict it ahead of time. And
CDs are a big game changer.
But that was a big skill set for like our era to have is that you have to you'd case out where you're going first. You'd kind of know the demographic, you know who you're playing to, and then you'd select accordingly. You know. And then chuck in a few things and then maybe a few tracks that could take you in other directions and all that kind of stuff. But you had to really think the set through. And you can't have a crate set up because your next gig's different. So it's like, you can't have a particular order because the ones that do a particular order and stick to a method don't really get that far with it. No. They might get far in their particular genre, but they can't, branch off into other stuff. Yeah,
especially in the early 2000s. That's why I think house music was, a lot of people were playing that. Obviously, it was popular, but if everything's around about 120 to 125 to 130, you're pretty safe in that sort of space.
You can zone out. But then when the CDs came out, it was like, now it's free.
And that changes everything.
Yeah, it was like $20 for a thing of blanks, and that was enough to do a year's worth of stuff on, So that actually made it really easy. But I stuck with the vinyl the entire time because I always desired to have that collection that my mate had, and to be able to not have to borrow records and to do it with my taste and not somebody else's taste, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There was always, even with CDs as a consumer before, looking at them from a DJ perspective, they were never they were not as real as records. I don't know whether it was
it's like candy, man.
It was a little bit kind of,
It was. Yeah. Like still now, I still love records. Like I want to go through your records.
Well,
Yeah,
you can. I've got
actually.
heaps of them out
I'm
there.
gonna, don't worry. Yeah, the CDs like Candy and like I do a lot of markets and all that kind of stuff. Going to a lot of markets, and now like for ages there before records, just in these gaps, like I always did that with whatever was at the market is probably the next thing I'm going to get. Like recollected my entire Star Wars collection.
Yep.
You know, the vintage stuff. I'm right into vintage toys. But then records were pretty cheap, so you could just get like a whole box and then slowly go through it and find new treats. And then now, like I reckon I buy 40 CDs a week.
Yep.
Still.
And that's the thing. The CDs now, you can still go to op shops and get them for $1, and there's some good ones in there if you dig hard enough. Generally,
Yeah. As soon as anything reaches $1, I'm in.
yeah. VHS as well, like that sort of thing happened.
Just getting back into VHS. We can talk about that later. I've got a little project on the boil.
Yeah.
It rebirthed the fun of it for me, having access to the music again, because it felt like I was like slipping out of touch, and like you can't afford the records that are out, and then by the time you can get them, they're either not available or everyone's moved on, and because the music industry is like so quick, like it was slow back in the day. Like the records that were out were the records that were out, and that's it. But just because everything started to move a lot faster, and then I was still able to play a lot of modern stuff and stuff that I liked because it was on CD, so I was able to just rip it and
Exactly. I mean, that changes.
LimeWire or whatever it was.
Yeah, that changes the way that DJs and that nightclubs, bars, pubs, where DJs were regularly playing, people wanted that instant gratification pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like pre-CDs, you know, you might hear the same songs that are the classic songs, and then you might get a few new ones.
Yeah.
But once that comes in, they're like, no, this song I heard the other day, play that. That changes everything.
Yeah, it does, man.
Yeah.
It does. And the one thing that never worked for me with DJing was a big thing back when you're trying to get gigs and trying to do the gig hustle, send in a demo, give us a demo.
Yeah.
So it was like this massive struggle of like, okay, so first of all, I'm going to have to work out how to do it. So I was doing the 4-track Tascam, and then somehow giving that to a mate who had a computer, and he was cutting them to CDs.
Yeah.
But then by the time you give people, it's like cold calling, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I never ever got a gig from a demo. And I reckon I handed out thousands of them.
Yeah. But those venue managers were playing that just before the DJ would turn up because they're like, oh, this mix is pretty cool.
Totally. They can all go fuck themselves. I said that a lot.
So with that progression, so then you're starting to, I'm guessing, like you said, you always had the Tascam stuff, but you're starting to get more gigs, more music, you're understanding it more, so you're starting to take your production side of it a little bit more seriously as well?
Well, that came after, I've always been into animation, so I did an animation course, and then it was always like, everything that I wanted to do, I was kind of like the black sheep of, so when we were doing metal bands, I wanted to make rap, you know what I mean? And and so I had to keep that a little bit secret from the other boys.
Yeah.
Where was I going with that? It's
animation and
animation. Thank you. So did an animation course, and I was into stop mo because I grew up with Morph and all that kind of stuff, Hardman, and I wanted to do stop mo, and everybody was doing gaming. So I was like, oh man. So in that course, I learned how to use a computer, which I'd never had learned before. I had to like go, how do you save something?
Right.
You know, just click your mouse on the screen. It's like click on the screen. It's like no. So did that, but then within that course there was an audio course, and they were teaching Logic.
Yep.
And then I was just like, fuck, man, this is what I actually want to learn.
Yeah.
And then everything, instead of while everybody was getting the animation projects like Maya and all these technical stuff, and I just never could quite grasp it. I tried like super hard to get into it, but then it was quickly moving that the industry was like, you're just a tiny cog in a big system. So I worked for the movie place in the city, and quickly learned, because I always wanted to be a set designer. when I was growing up. I was a special effects artist. But there was nowhere to learn it, nowhere to do it. And then when I got into the industry to sort of like, all right, I'm here, you don't really play a role in it. And it just wasn't doing it.
Yep.
And so quickly learned that whatever you learn, if you can extract one tiny thing out that you can tag to the bigger picture, that's gonna like build up my assets until I could say, right, okay, I can record now because I've learned how to use a program. I know how to do it. I know how to use computers now. I've had all this like musical background.
Yep.
And then so basically once I had that little setup going, we were just like trying to make tracks, getting drum machines, and then trying to make beats, you know, because I didn't have much method of sampling. But just sort of like try to edge off while still being, you know, a working DJ all the time.
Yep. And then I guess your love for hip hop is there, but doing the commercial gigs, you're not getting to do that too much.
Not too much, yeah. You just like you edge into it a bit, and then people turn off it. And even now with that kind of stuff, the only hip hop I get to play is R&B. And I hated it for ages. Now I totally get it. But you know, it comes with the turf. You know what I mean? Like you get a certain kind of audience that are into it, and then again that steers you off in directions that I didn't really want to do. Yeah. So, but I've embraced again. Like you take the parts that I like out of that, and then you know add that to the list. You know? So, but being exposed to a lot of that shit has given me a little bit of a taste of everything. All self-taught.
Yeah.
You know, self-observed. So whatever I could pull out of each little experience, I would try and add to the bigger picture.
Yeah. And by not using a computer in the early days, by not having the best direct drive turntables, by not having the best CD players, it's made you really learn things properly, thoroughly. So then when you do have the tools to record and things become easier, it opens the floodgates.
Yeah, you're off to the races, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Which is perfect for you.
Yeah. And then having a foot in the live rap stuff, and then making contacts that way, and then naturally, you know, the scratching goes hand in hand with that. And so I would do a lot of scratching when I'm doing live shows.
Yep.
Always, that's just doing a show always got me another show or got me a scratching gig.
Yep.
You know?
And then so you start to think about the competitiveness of the scratching. Is that coming in or not for a while?
Not for ages, man. Like
really?
I did. It was in the back of my mind, like I'd like to do it, but then, particularly in that era, man, everyone was so good at it.
Yeah.
You know, and we went to one of the DMCs, and one of the cats was 16, and he was just like absolutely nuts. It's like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like 4,000 or 5,000 people. It's like, well, can I do an ollie in front of 45,000 people? No, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
So it was always like I always wanted to be able to do it. And I was always working towards being good enough to do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until way later.
But yeah. So then your scratching is mainly just with your sort of, you know, your club gigs and with the DJing for the rappers as well.
Yeah. So any opportunity to make, don't get me wrong, I love Aussie hip hop, but it took me ages to get into it. And it wasn't until I like understood the dudes that were doing it that I fully understood what it was about.
Yep.
You know? So how could I contribute to that whilst staying true to what my bigger picture is, you know? And that was to create something that was a world sound rather than just a local sound, you know?
Right, yeah.
So I had a couple of good opportunities falling in with some, you know, some pretty tight gutter rap and, you know, a few staunch boys, which is obviously where a lot of rappers are sitting. It's very like, it's a closed circuit, man. Once you start knowing someone knows someone.
Yeah. They know this is the guy who knows how to cut. This is the guy who can, you know, produce properly.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I always admired J Red and everything they were doing, the lyrical commission and all that kind of stuff, and cuts on that were always tight. But then, you know, and I did a couple of DJ comps did really well in that, but mainly doing sets, like kind of like the Red Bull thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But I was
yeah.
playing drum and bass for ages,
Yeah.
because that's what I had the bulk
Records for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you obviously came up with the name at this stage. You were DJ Rellik.
Nah, I wasn't Rellik then. I was
What were you?
oh man, I don't know. For a while, well, my podcast handle is Timmy Taco.
Yes.
Right, and so went to this gig to see Pigeon John. Do you know? Have you heard of Pigeon John?
No.
It's like, man, putting those two words together, it's like so obscure, so weird. I really like that, but he gets to use his real name, and it's something
Okay,
obscure.
yeah,
do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
I was like, yeah, Timmy Taco. Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a gag.
Yeah.
But then I was in a band, the Get Down Gang. I was like a soul band. I was fucking cool as, man. And I was DJing for them.
Yep.
So they'd do breakdowns and stuff, and then I'd have a quick cut section or whatever.
Cool.
But we'd write songs together, all that kind of stuff. And we're playing at this festival, and there was a taco stand there, Trippy Taco.
Yeah.
That was right at the start.
Yeah.
And just because the band was saying, "Does Timmy Taco," then the crowd started in a chant. I don't know whether it was because Trippy Taco was there or whatever. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then maybe a year later, the guitarist was one of the writers for Herald Sun, and he was reviewing all the equipment that was coming out. And he's like, "Oh man, you're a DJ. You want to do this?" And then, "What's your DJ name?" I'm like, "Oh, Timmy Taco." Anyway, I was at the shops, just getting some shopping, and then came out the day the newspaper came out. I was walking down the street, and some old bloke came up and went, "Hey, Timmy Taco."
So
he
that
must
was
have just
gonna
been
stick.
reading it.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck that works. When I was doing the Grand, that residency, we just like, you get a lot of time in between songs and your mates are there and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's it. By the end of the night, I've got to come up with a name because I just can't keep like throwing stupid names around, and something's got to stick because nothing was sticking really. And I think we'll listen to Jurassic 5, one of those. And then Charlie's like, the Angelic Man Rellik.
Yeah, there you go.
Relic's good.
Yeah.
We'll spell it killer. So it's killer backwards. Rellik, killer.
Yeah.
So that kind of had like a little bit of a flair to it. And it was cool enough.
Yeah.
So I rolled with that. And
There
then,
you go.
yeah, that was fucking forever ago.
Anything Charlie Tuna says is going to sound kind of cool
that's
with
it.
that voice.
And then I got to DJ for Charlie Tuna.
Amazing. What a full circle moment.
Yeah, it was great.
Where was that at?
At Rubik's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he came down for the gig that he was doing.
Yeah.
And then I DJ'd that spot and he came down and
Yeah, there you go.
I wasn't sure whether I should be playing any of his tracks when I did that set. I did refrain from doing that. As in, because he was there as a guest.
He wasn't rapping.
No, he had been doing shows. And this was for the after party thing,
Yeah.
And I was like, should I be playing?
Well, what if you played a J5 song and then mixed it out before his verse?
Well, I guess you could do that. I didn't do that, though.
Didn't do
I was
that.
a bit
Then he might
nervous.
think that's disrespectful, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It believes you know. So what did you play?
That night,
Yeah.
that was just straight up hip hop, man.
Yeah.
I just went nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to make a good impression.
Good venue there, man.
It's sick, man.
Yeah.
Always love that spot. Tan's great. Tans was running it back in the day, so yeah. So what else? What else was off the back of that? That was so yeah. The name kind of stuck, and then once you can start to make a name for yourself and stick something to it, and then stick with that, then you're easier to find.
Yeah.
Basically.
And there is a real balancing act there because you want to still do the commercial-ish gigs because they're paying the bills, but you also want to do the more hip-hop stuff because that's what you're into. So that's the fucking...
I still do it, man. I still do heaps of
it's a
commercial
balancing
stuff.
act.
I heaps do heaps of weddings.
Yeah.
I'll play anything.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
They call me the cut slut. That's what the Raw Authentic Boys would call me anyway.
Yeah.
But then with the Raw Authentic Boys, we did a gig and they had a group, Tranquil Artillery, and that was all live stuff. And we'd played just before them, and then they were a guest on our bill, And so they played, and I just stayed on the turntables, had a cut. I think they just lost the DJ. They're like, do you want to?
You're in.
Well, do you want to do a couple of tracks with us? And then I've been with those boys for 20 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah, ages.
Yeah.
But they had good clout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that is a good thing about that sort of scene because it is close. But if you're DJing for them, they're cool if you can go work with this person, you can work with that person, do the cuts for them. You're a bit of a free agent.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I was never officially, at the start, never officially a member. So I was able to, because they got me to play off the back of what I was already doing. Mm-hmm. Because I never say no. So if somebody's got a good idea, I'll give it a go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care what it is.
So is this at the point where you start to when people are recording albums and they're like, oh, we'll get Timmy to do the cuts?
Yeah. Yeah, so there was a couple of dudes. There's a couple of dudes I won't mention that I was sort of like competing with in that time frame, but then I was still up to the standard. I'm right. Still up to the standard, and then I guess it's just from doing the gigs that really like launched the scratching stuff.
Yeah. And then do you tackle that with a totally different mindset because you're like, okay, these are the like, how does that even work? Because as someone who, I love a lot of the cuts you've done, a lot of different albums, but how does that work? Like, does someone send you, or do they say there's a bit of space here? How does that even work?
Yeah, so it started off pretty much the exact same way a rapper would. They give you like 8 bars or 16 bars or whatever, or 3 spots on a track, intro, outro, middle section or whatever. And then for ages I was just given the topic, given the assignment, and then I'd go for a dig, but it would take like ages, man, because I'd have to listen to it.
Did you like doing it that way?
Not as much. So like I had lots of notebooks with tons of stuff. So if I found something good, I'd always write it down or mark it some way.
Yeah.
So they knew how to go back to it. So the next job that I got was a little bit easier. Yeah. And then the way I do it now is I'll have a good sit down with the artist, but then I'll say, you know, whatever the topic is, let's sort of work together to find the right samples, and then you sort of tell me what you had in mind for that section, and then I'll show you what I got.
Yeah,
because you know
you're the way that you've got to now, and obviously this is where you're at now, and you're very well established. But you're kind of putting the icing on the cake a little bit now.
Yeah,
like because the tracks, the producer's done their thing, the rapper's done their thing. The hook's probably in there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You're just putting that little bit of magic on top.
Yeah, I was a credit collector for a while.
But you're doing your thing though, man.
Lots of the payment was just put my name on it for ages. But and then because for ages there it was reading the liner notes.
Yeah.
You know? And as long as I was in those liner notes, people knew how to find me.
Yeah.
And then I'd do a gig, and then it's like they could relate the name to the spot they just read.
Yeah.
You know. So that always worked out quite well, and there's not as much of that anymore because with a lot of the digital uploads, there's not even a spot to put cuts by. You know?
That's that
for registering stuff. You know, it's like, oh, who did the production? Who did the mixing? Who did the you know what I mean? So like, where do you put it?
Yeah, I think even for a while, as like obviously I've got a lot of physical copy records and music, but I'll still use Spotify with my Sonos and shit. For a long time, you couldn't even see any credits.
No.
At all.
No.
So that's only recent that you can even see who the producer was.
That's it, man. You wanted to look up particular labels and then find out what else is on that label, and then
that's the physical thing that we've lost.
It's Pandora's box, but like I think there's a website, Pandora's Box, isn't there? Where you put something in, then it feeds you the next thing.
Yeah,
can't stand that. I'm not a massive fan of Spotify. I can never seem to get it to work for me. In terms of just I don't like relying on the internet for gigs. People use Record Box and all that kind of stuff that you need a good connection for, and I've played rural gigs where you're really stuck for internet, and then you're screwed. Like I found it hard to even get to some gigs with GPS. You know what I mean?
With Record Box, I've never used the one that you need to stay online for. But once that came in to the point where you could have your USB Record Box, and then you've got all your categories there, everything is kind of mapped and in. Like that was a game changer, though.
Yeah, game changer for some.
Yeah,
but like I never wanted to rely on it. It's just the new tech. You know, there's an extra button, an extra thing that could go wrong with it, an extra motherboard that could go corrupt, like
Yeah.
you know, crossfaders and all this fucking shit. Serato updates.
A lot of that, yeah.
For ages, I had to bring my own equipment to every gig because I just couldn't rely on plugging my Serato box into somebody else's mixer because it just wouldn't read.
Yeah, no,
Yeah?
that is definitely the downside of that. But back to the cutting stuff. So, man, and that's such an interesting spot to be in because obviously you produce your own music and you master it, you do all that, but you were known as the cuts guy for quite a while to do that sort of, to just give us a little bit of, you know, funkiness here.
Yeah, exactly. So like, what's cool about it is you get to put your flair on things. You know what I mean? So, turn a pretty, you know, whatever could be an average track into something that could have better appeal. You know what I mean? And make it sound good.
Obviously, every case is different, but is there generally much back and forth, or are they lot of it
heaps?
Really?
Yeah.
So
So
the
I
artist,
always do one big pass. Actually, that was a big part of the process for me was learning how to compromise with different artists.
Yep.
And learning that the first way is not the last way. You know what I mean? So do a pass, free it. You know, just be done with it. Wait for the artist to give you a response, but be prepared to change anything at any stage. Like I've done some tracks I've done like 5-6 times, done them over, which is why I started working with artists saying, you find the samples because we can cut out a shit ton of the bullshit of back and forth. I don't want to spend 4 hours looking for a sample that you're just going to reject. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you don't like that artist or you don't like a song they did forever ago or...
Yeah.
You know? So I've made it a lot easier now for the artist to sort of get what they want straight away, and then having that good turnover gives you good rep. You know what I mean?
Is there potentially times though where they kind of give you creative control? They go, look, there's a gap in here.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10.
And go, we know what you're doing. Fucking do it.
Yeah, that's right. More so now because of everything I've managed to do.
You've got the runs on the board. Yeah.
That's it. So, but there was always back and forth and. You just sort of learn the ways of how people operate, and then again, you take a thread of what they're doing and add it. Like I like that. Add that to my repertoire.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then just learning off people. For ages, I sat there, just when mates were making beats or making anything. Can I sit on the session and just watch how you do it? You know, just pick it up that way.
For sure.
Yeah, because I never wanted to do a course on any of that stuff.
Better off learning when you hit the ground.
Yeah, that's it.
I've had so many people message me like, hey, can I come and shadow you and watch you do a podcast? I'm like, you don't want to do that because I got no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. You don't want to see how I do it.
No, you don't. You don't.
No. But that now I'm a little bit more open to that. So if someone comes in with the studio, I get a lot of people doing it for the first time. And they try to get somebody that's had a bit of know-how and that's learned the process to help them get to the next bit. So I hear a lot of really, really, really bad rappers out there. There's a lot of them.
Okay, but if they're paying you to do the cuts, good.
Yeah, but it's not so much the money thing. It's like I'm not one to shut down anybody's creative expression.
You may not like it, but someone else.
But that's it. That's it, man. So I'll give the tips and all that kind of stuff. I don't like it when they say, "So what do you really think of it?" It's, you know. They're not going to lie. But basically trying to turn that into something for them. It's not necessarily always about what I'm adding to it. It's trying to make them have that sound. Like I always try to get inside of somebody's ears. That's the first sort of step. Like what are you into? What are you actually making? What do you want to make? Yeah, you know.
What's your blueprint? Like who are you looking up to?
It. Sort of thing? Who are you looking up to? And then we'll sit there for ages and look at what to get into their headspace. And that comes with the compromise as well because you know, like if I was doing a house party, I've got to play to the audience.
Yep.
And so your clients and other rappers and everybody, they're your audience as well.
It may not sound good to you, but that's what they're paying you for. That's they're employing your services.
Yeah.
And it's for them and their friends and their market if there is one.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
job.
I got some good shine out of some fucking polished shit, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Are these, let's say, in these interesting ones, are you doing not just the cuts, you're also doing some production and recording
Bit of
as
beat
well?
production as well. So
Yeah.
and then that's another thing. For ages, people were like, "Oh, give us a beat tape," you know, and that to me was always like, "Give me a demo tape and I'll see if you've got the gig." Like I didn't want to have to always prove myself that way.
Yeah.
I'd make a few beat tapes and whatever, but what worked best for me was getting somebody in if they want to make a beat. I'd let them sit there and we co-produce it, and then while we're doing that, I'm sort of teaching them how to do it because ideally, like I want to create more soldiers. You know what I mean? So somebody that can learn off me, you don't have to keep coming here if it's something that you could learn and do yourself. You know
Each
what I
one
mean?
teach one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and then getting good results out of that, and then you can see that when you work with people that are pretty amateur at it, get pretty good pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because you got to have the right person to go off, and somebody that's not going to be too like secretive about the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for everyone, man.
So if there's a young rapper that has ideas and the time and obviously the money and the resources, they can hit you up and you can go through the process to make a beat for them, to do the cuts.
100%.
All the whole thing
100%.
from
Whole
go to
thing.
woe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every bit.
Yeah.
And now more so videos and promotional stuff, and like what I've always sort of said to everybody is like, let's just get product ready. Do you know what I mean? I might not necessarily be able to get you a contract or, on rage.
Yeah.
If that's still
that's your PR job.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't take it past that stage, but I can give you everything you need to take to them. To prove
for
yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that happened with the internet, which is awesome, that we don't need the record labels and all the rest of it so much. Because if your product is good enough and you are good at marketing yourself, like you still have to, even people that are very good at what they do still have to market themselves.
Yeah, man.
You have to.
Yeah.
But if you're good enough now, you don't need the record labels. You can go and do it. You still got to be making good product though.
Yeah, but also you got to do what I did for the first 27 years and sit on the end of your bed going, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
What am I getting
Well,
out
that's
of
part
this?
of it. The struggle's part of it.
Oh, man. I still do it. But, as long as you can get back up and do something good the next day.
Yeah.
There's some days you get in there and you want to make a beat and it just doesn't happen, man.
But yeah, for sure. Is there some artists that you've worked with and you think this person's got the right sort of thing and it never or doesn't sort of hit for them, or vice versa?
I wouldn't say that so much. I would say that a lot of dudes come in and do a lot of good stuff and then get nowhere with it. Do you know what I mean?
And then
they sort of drop off. It sort of goes in. I've noticed it sort of goes in 10-year blocks. You know, you got all the heads from 10, 15 years ago now, and they get so far and then they have kids or they retire or they just can't be fucked anymore.
Realize there's not much money in it.
Yeah, there's no money in it.
Yeah.
And then a new set comes in, and then I've watched them drop off. I've watched heaps of people drop off, more than have come up.
Yeah, for sure. It's like Checkmate said when I had him on the show, he's like, he'll record stuff and it sounds good, and the person will turn to him and say, so do you reckon I'm going to make it? And he's like, well, what do you reckon making it is? He's like,
what is it,
mate, you're making it now.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to be money and stardom, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, and
this local rap stuff.
Yeah, and it's like it's the journey, not the destination, mate. And like I tried to work out for ages what would define me having made it. I thought, oh well, get a vinyl on the wall. Yeah. And then I got a vinyl, and it's just I want another one. Then you get 40, 50 of them. It's just like, well, fuck, it doesn't mean shit.
That's it, man. It's the journey.
It's good. It's good to keep and good to hold and good to brag.
Yeah.
But making it is actually physically making it, like the process of making it.
But that's it. I think anyone that's in a creative workplace or where you can live off something that you do creatively, you've made it. Yeah. In my point of, you're not working at Coles. Yeah. You're not making music on the side. If you're making that and that's your profession, you've made it.
Yeah, that's it.
And people need to pinch themselves or stop and take a moment to appreciate that if that's where you're at, then you've done it. Because it's pretty hard to do that in any capacity.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, they say if you haven't made it after 10 years, you're never going to make it. But like, there's a point where if you keep going after that 10 years, there's a whole other life that could be lived in it. So you just got to persevere with everything. You're naturally going to get better at it.
Yep.
What is it? The 10,000 hours or what is that? Is that what it is? Something like that. If you do something for 10,000 hours.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've done this for 400,000 hours, and I'm still trying to make it.
But you're enjoying the process.
That's it. It's about
and you're doing what you're passionate about.
That's it. And most days I don't have to go and work.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Like I'm here. It's the middle of the day.
Drinking beers, hanging out.
That's it.
So with the song production stuff and the cuts, do people sometimes go, I love this song, make me something like this?
Oh, yeah. So I've done a fair bit of back engineering.
Yeah.
So people give me a song and they'll go,
because they've probably recorded to this song they've got an instrumental of.
That's it. And that's usually a good place to start with somebody that I know that the first 20, I say just get the first 20 songs out of your head because that's the shittest you're ever going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And after that, you're going to have to force yourself to be better.
Yep.
So, and then make sure you record those 20 songs because you need to look back on that in 2 years to prove, like if you look back and go, oh my God, it was shit, it means you've progressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you need these benchmarks.
Totally.
So I totally always recorded everything I possibly could because it was my only way of keeping record of what was going on.
Totally, yeah. And then you can look back. So mates of mine who are into painting, they're like trying to get me to paint pieces recently. So I've tried after 20 years and like just finish it, even if you think it sucks, because then you've finished it. If you don't finish it, then you're going to be down on yourself because you didn't finish it. Yeah. And then each time, as long as you finish it, you can only get better.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same mentality.
And you pick a good name that no one's going to recognise while you're shit. Like Timmy Taco, for example.
So the reverse engineering songs, I think that's an interesting one, man. Like you can obviously, I hear it all the time, and I'm sure you do because you've got a very finely tuned ear. You'll be just like watching the footy or whatever, an ad will come on, and then you're like, they sent them that song and said, we're not paying for the rights.
Yeah, totally.
Just make that song one little bit different.
Yeah, so I've made a fair bit of coin out of that exact thing.
Really,
so,
from advertising?
Yeah, a little bit of advertising and film scores and a few things like that.
Yeah.
Where they'll send me a bunch of reference material and say, this is kind of what we want. So you lean heavily on what you know.
Yeah.
But if you change a little bit of it,
Yeah.
you don't want to sound like you're biting.
No,
but
a lot of those songs you'll hear on ads.
That some of the dudes that they want you to make it as close to it as possible.
Yeah. You know what else happens with those ads, man? They'll get the song, they'll do it, but that's not the original recording. They must save money by getting some dickhead in a studio to sing it. Yeah.
Yeah, they totally do. K-Tel.
Is it? Yeah, K-Tel record.
Yeah.
Man, with the digging stuff, I bought a lot of those ones because you're like, there might be some drum loops and stuff in there.
Always is, man.
Yeah, so I've got
Always.
You can have a good dig.
Yeah, I will. Every single solitary record has a sample on it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how you use it.
Exactly, man. I love those sort of Instagram reels where they break apart the samples. That's so cool the way they do that. You're like, this is a sample, but I didn't know it was sped up, or this bit was played, backwards. Or there's samples everywhere.
That's it.
It's about layering them and finding. Yeah,
that's it. And you got to be prepared to choose obscure stuff and take on weird jobs. And like I had one chick that came in and she booked the studio, and I was like thinking we were going to do hip hop, and she wanted to do piano ballad, but in Mandarin.
Yeah, right.
So, so I jumped into that, and then just having opportunities to do a lot of weird stuff. The first job I had in the studio was a band, and then I can't remember what they were called, but there was a whole heap of them, and it was too many cooks, and it was hard to manage a band in the studio. And then I just like I gotta shut this. I can't make myself available to full bands because it's just that there's a big expectation on having a sound engineer qualification and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up having to get through that project, like you said, finish it.
Yeah.
And then the band broke up. was like, fuck, I went through all that for nothing.
But you can see how that happens with bands that have even made it with big record deals because the creative differences come into it. And from like a person looking from the outside, you're like, fuck, man, these guys had a record deal, just sort it out. But you could be like, too many cooks.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're never going to see the same direction
Yeah,
in a
that's
lot
it.
of capacity.
That's it. And because I've always said yes to things, sometimes you're saying yes to the wrong things, and then you miss out on another opportunity.
But you've got to say yes to most things. You can't
Yeah, you
always...
do. Yeah, you do. And then you say yes, and then it's up to the other person to follow it up. So, you know, usually.
Yeah.
I don't like chasing it too hard, you know.
Well, no, and you're at the point now where you shouldn't be doing that as well. So, you know...
hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, people come and see you and they know what you do. Is there ever a time where you've done some cuts and stuff on a record and the producer has been like, man, this isn't the way it should have been? Or is it always generally...
What would happen is you don't get mentioned. You get if they finally release it, you pour your heart into it.
Yeah.
And then you get the cover art back and you're not on it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
So
it's just not mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, then you fade off into the darkness like the guitar solo did. You know what I mean? Because that was well, for ages it was. If you remember, like with Michael Jackson, he would have a guest rapper on. That kind of disappeared. The guest rap.
There was always the third verse would have some sort of we hip and we hype and we
it was something. Yeah. It was something leaning on something else, but and then I think that's the way that cuts were treated for ages, man. You know, and now it's like it's almost disrespectful to put an album out without hip hop album out without some level of scratches on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know.
What about like that sort of alternative time in the early 2000s where every alternative band needed to have a DJ just to do something?
Yeah, well, that's how I got in the Get Down game.
They're like, yeah, we need.
And what the problem with it was that musos would go, all right, now it's time for the scratch section, and the whole band would back off and let you do your scratch thing. But it's like, no, it's exactly the opposite. But it sort of shows you that like not everybody knows what's going on. Not even musos a lot of the time. You know?
Yeah.
So it's good for me to have that kind of knowledge to inject that back into people's songs because it's something that people wouldn't have even considered.
No.
You know.
And with the whole way that fashion trends with music and fashion seem to be coming around, that's got to be coming back pretty soon where there'll be a DJ in every band, you know?
Oh, that's it, man.
It's due to come back.
Yeah, it is. I'm leaning, project I'm working on at the moment is a metal band because we had a metal band back in the day. We were called Hemorrhage. And we got together at a mate's 50th recently from one of the guys from the band. We're like, man, it's been 25 years. Let's because we originally did it on DAT tape, and we said let's remaster the old tracks.
Is it called Rehemorrhage?
Yeah, still bleeding. Should have done that. Maybe I will.
Yeah.
And so we remastered that, and we're like, well, we should reform the band just to do one track. So we got the old stuff and then one. And then two of the other blokes weren't available, and the singer and I got together and we just started writing songs. And since then, we've written a whole nother album.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. And so that's coming out in a couple of months. But we changed the band name to the Death Valley Snipers.
It's cool name.
It's kind of motorcycle mayhem kind of rock.
Yep.
Pretty heavy.
Make a cool sort of back patch.
Yeah, but we're doing vinyl. Doing a 7-inch, releasing the original Hemorrhage CD. Well, it's probably going to be CD. But that's been good fun. Getting back on the guitar. I haven't been on the guitar for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No cuts on there.
No, there's cuts on one song.
Really?
But it's just stabs.
Statics.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what are some other projects that are notable ones that you've worked on? And look, your catalogue of what you've worked on is long.
Yeah.
It's huge. You mentioned at the start, over 200 records.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm always adding to that.
Is there some memorable ones, some that you're really proud of? We can't talk about every old 200.
Well, in the last couple of years, I reckon pretty proud of Epic's album.
Yep.
we're working on one. He really gets it because he's a master at finding samples. So he'll bring a whole heap of stuff, and then we'll make beats together and then customize it. I did all the beats on his last album, Legacy, and then then he kind of got it and really involved me in part of the process, where a lot of other rappers just got me involved.
Yep.
He really wanted to like make, a big deal out of working together on it.
A partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working on a new thing there, and then did artifacts with Explicit Lyrics. There's a new cat, new cat, and then I did all the tracks on his album. So lately, it's been a lot of doing the entire production for that. But now everybody demands to have some visual element to it. So the last, I don't know, well, I've been doing it forever, but because of the animation thing, but I've started to become more of a content creator.
Yep.
These days.
Everyone's got to be.
Yeah, that's it, man. So you got to get on your edit game and do that.
I might need to pay you to come and give me some lessons.
I'll do it. Yes.
Yeah.
So each week I put out 1 or 2 remixes of stuff that I've been forced to play, like the trash that we get to have to play at pub rock and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but they're all there's a bit of yacht rock, but they're all classic songs.
Yeah, that's it. And the stuff like you say has a good break in it or a really good a cappella. What I've been doing is extracting the a cappellas and then reconstituting it into like soulful stuff that I was into in the Lego days.
Yeah.
And really bring that together and changing the trashy tracks into something like palatable.
Yeah.
And then editing video to that. So, and then so I've done about 50 of them so far.
Have you done 50?
Yeah, 50 of those.
Fuck, man.
And then everyone's saying, "Oh, do a mixtape." Like put it all together. I was like, man, it's because it's deliberately visual. So on the videos I'll have a shot of me doing it live.
Yep, it's cut into 3 spots. Yeah.
Yeah, but the main DJ spot is me doing it in one take, and then I'll record that in, and then I'll track visuals in time with what I'm doing.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, all this new technology, but fuck, man, you couldn't have done that back in the day. You know what I mean? So this is where technology's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. And I desperately want to start video DJing, which I've got like a 4-hour video set worked out, but my Serato won't handle it. I need this computer for that, and I'm just trying to thrash the old machine into doing it for me, and it won't do it.
Yeah, I've spoken to someone recently, another DJ. When I first started, one of my first fucking gigs was at Metro nightclub, right? And they had budget.
Yeah.
And they had the VDJ, which was like a CD.
The CDJ with the
CDJ 1000, but it was a
DVDs.
VDJ, right?
Sick.
And that, I don't even know, like I haven't seen one for years.
Yeah.
But that
J Red still rocks one.
There you go. So that because Pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so they were, and people were like, yep, this is going to be a thing, and you had the visuals.
Yeah.
But it was hard to match the visual to beat. Yeah, like it was a hard thing.
Yeah, it was
but that was
complicated.
a long way ahead of its time.
Yeah,
man.
that's it. And now with the Serato video, I just can't seem to make it work on a PC. You need a Mac to make it work properly.
Do you know what, man? I'm only Mac and all Mac, and I have been for years.
Okay.
It only has USB-C's, the new one, but then
The new
Serato
ones,
doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, then the mixes
Don't have a USB-C,
interface.
so that's just a fucking pain in the ass anyway.
I'll fucking work it out.
You buy a mixer for like $6,000, it doesn't have USB-C on it.
That's it, man. Fucking changing everything on us. Those fucking chargers.
So tell us about the visual. So you want to do the...
So I've been doing those one or 2 a week, and that's actually on Instagram. That's the first thing that people are grabbing onto because it's got a bigger appeal, and it still stays true to doing hip hop, and I can scratch the acapellas, and it's about reinventing stuff that everybody knows. So
and that will correlate with the...
It does. So like people knowing the song in advance is way easier to push than have listened to my track because 9 times out of 10 No one listens to the shit you do.
Those visual, if you did that, I think someone did it a few years ago, someone, but if you do that visual stuff, well, you could do big festivals, man. Like
Man.
that's something that would translate so well to big festivals.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Is it Sam Millions, some dude like that, someone?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he did it for a while.
So everyone's pushing me to do a mixtape for those tracks, but like I said, it's a visual thing. So the last couple of weeks, the latest project I've been working on is I'm going to release a VHS.
Yeah, sick.
And it's probably an hour and a half, like feature length film.
Wow.
Which is found footage, and it's more like a cut and paste mixtape but with video.
Awesome.
And then that cuts to, it blends in the tracks that I've been putting up on Insta, like
That's a
marries it
fucking
in.
awesome idea, man.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Are you gonna like bootleg them yourself, or are you
Yes,
gonna
I
get
picked up all the VHSs
ya?
yesterday. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
sick.
So it's full bootleg style.
Yeah.
Found footage. It's a really rustic kind of look.
Yeah.
Quite lo-fi, and then
Photocopied like jackets.
Yeah, the works. I'll probably do better printing for that.
Yeah. You should get little
But I'll have to
stickers
sit
made
there.
up.
I'll have to sit there and dub them.
Yeah, but get the little stickers, right? You know that you'd say like weekly or
Oh yeah. Word. That's a great idea. So that's one thing I'm working on at the moment. Nobody steal it because I'm already doing it.
Yeah. Once you've said it now, you've got to.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, that's I've learned that pretty quickly too. That have an idea and just do it because somebody else is having the exact same idea.
Yeah.
And it's something that anyone can do because we're
Yeah.
go for it. But you'll never do it as good as me. So working on that, and then at the same time working on a full cut and paste mixtape, which is audio.
Yep.
And I've left big chunks of space there for other DJs to come on and scratch. So we do a bit of back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's really, really wacky kind of stuff, and joke tracks. And
How does it go with the other DJs? And obviously, in any industry, there's people you get along with, and sometimes people you don't. Do people message you and be like, "Fuck, man, what was that sample?" And you're like, "No, I'm not telling you this one."
Oh
that sort of thing?
no, I'll never like that. If I can remember what it is, I'll
You'll
totally
tell
tell
them?
you. Absolutely, yeah, man, yeah. I mean, it's any idea is anyone's idea.
Yeah.
And I learned pretty quickly not to keep it secret because I learned pretty quickly by people sharing with me.
Yep.
Well, the people that were up for sharing, there's other people that wouldn't show me how to do a particular trick, and I had to work it out. And then, what's the end result? I'm better at it than you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have held back because now I have to kick your ass. You know what I mean?
That's it.
And then, so with getting quite good at the scratching and featuring on people's stuff, then the next step was to actually compete. And I got in for DMC in 2014. I guess when it was kind of ripe for the taking because it was kind of dropping off.
Was it Laundry then?
Yeah, it was at Laundry. But the previous years to that, it was like, thousands of people at these things, massive events. And so I really didn't think I had a chance, but like put everything into it, like practicing 8 hours a day for months.
That's commitment, man.
It was. And it paid off because I won that one. So
amazing, man.
Yeah, it's
that's
pretty
the
cool.
Vix.
That's Vic State,
Yeah. And at that stage, Serato was part of it.
Yeah, I was definitely using Serato.
Yeah.
So I sussed out how to use Ableton so that I found some code online. So if you had the BPM set to a certain BPM, it was equal to like the lines on Ableton added to a full rotation on turntables. So I was able to set up my own scratch things, and I had one particular file for the left side, one particular file for the right side. So I had my own custom battle record. So it still had to DJ it exactly the same, but it was constructed in Ableton and then performed through Serato.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Because I often wonder with that sort of stuff how far you do edit, and I think there was a bit of around about that time, maybe 2014, 2015, there was that whole thing where the dude did a whole pre-recorded set with the Red Bull thing. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, like that whole thing. So obviously you don't want to do anything pre-recorded, but it's so regimented and so fucking...
I will say about that though, that's what the equipment has opened the gates to, and so why can't you do some layering and stuff? If you're clever enough to be able to suss out the technology, I wouldn't necessarily consider it cheating, because you're using the equipment the way it was intended. Do you know what I mean? Maybe in a competitive arena, it's frowned upon, but
I think the idea would be you still have to be able to do the routine with the fuck ups and all.
Yeah.
If you're playing it pre-recorded, that's a different story.
yeah, I think only elements of that were pre-recorded.
Yeah, it was a big controversy back
Oh
then.
yeah. But nevertheless, it's sort of like you know, I spent a lot of time in the studio working it out and working out the bits, and I was able to change bits and test it a lot and then practice that. That's not working, go back to the computer, fix certain things. But on the night, you had to pull it off.
Yeah.
You know.
And all of a sudden you're not in your own bedroom. You know, you've got the turntables that other people have been using as well, even though you can set them. You bring your own mixer in, do you? But you've got to use what they deem to be the standard mixer for that.
No, for that was the way it was originally, I think. And then nowadays it's bring what you're comfortable with. Because using their turntables, laundry turntables are like a bit washy.
They were.
It's crazy.
So with those competitive things, would you, if you were practicing, just trying to get into your head as someone you're doing it at home, and you do what's the routine, like 6 minutes or something?
6 minutes.
Yeah, right?
But yeah.
So you're doing 6 minutes. If you make a fuck up, are you going back to the start, or you just go?
No, you got to persevere. So it's all about recovery. So I re-entered in 2019, and then did the same thing. Spent 8 months, 8 hours a day, working out the routine, and then something went wrong with Serato halfway through, and I recovered from it because I had cue points to jump to a section, but it was tiny fuck up.
Yeah.
But that was enough to lower points there, and then other people didn't fuck up, so I sort of in a way got disqualified. So in a way. So it's still what happens on the night. You know what I mean? So anything can go wrong.
Yeah.
But you would never start again.
No.
Start again.
I haven't been to a DMC for years. So do you do that same routine going through, or do you have to have multiple routines?
I thought you had to have multiple routines, so I worked out like once I surprise one, like I wasn't expecting to win.
Yeah.
I thought, shit, I've only got 2 weeks to do the whole process again, but in 2 weeks and get it better. So I came up with a whole new routine. It's a few elements from the original, but I think that maybe earned me some points on the night because I had something prepared, something new. But I thought that's what you had to do.
Yeah, but I guess the downside to doing the same routine as in the state as the nationals is that those judges have probably watched the video and they'll be like, "Oh, he fucked that bit up."
Yeah, all the other competitors have already studied you.
Yeah,
they've seen it. So
Interesting. It's a very interesting competitive sport.
It is. And then the last DMCs I got to be a judge. So like
amazing.
Managed to climb those ranks a little bit.
And how fucking was it different being on the other side of the turntables?
Yeah, I think so. But like knowing what I know, it was pretty obvious how to rank it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always tough going on in the first couple of rounds, being the first sort of dudes to do it on the night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're a bit harsher on the first dudes because you're expecting better things later on. But it's pretty hard up there, man.
Are people using the phase things now?
Everyone's sort of got a different way of approaching it. Some people just go full vinyl.
Right, so back to full vinyl, no Serato, no. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't work the same because we've come so far with it.
Yeah.
That technicality and how you use stuff really goes into the judging part of it as well. Like
Yeah.
You know, musicality and all that kind of stuff. If you can pull that stuff off on vinyl and do it properly, fucking unreal.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you gotta sit there and physically remove the piece of fucking plastic.
Yeah, but
rather than just hit your cue point.
yeah,
to get
but you also better be really good though, you know, because if you're going to give it a go and you're on vinyl and you do a shit job, then
yeah.
what are you doing?
But you're not in the States if you're gonna be shit though.
No, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about home grounds.
Oh well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the judging, do they break it down? Do they just say, okay, your job is to judge, or do they say we're talking about style? We're talking.
Yeah, we've got there's 5 or 6 categories,
right,
and then you know you can put points in those depending on what gets shown throughout the set because you never know what part's going to appear, and then you could lose points on certain areas, you know, or not rate as high.
Yep.
But then rate super high in other areas, and then redeem yourself or.
Yeah, well, that's almost needs to be a category in itself, just recovery. Like when you see that someone has gone awry, if they can pull it back.
I was watching. I don't know whether I should say it.
Say it if you want to take it out.
No, I was watching Wolsey. Wolsey was judging with me, and he just drew fucking black lines through whole sets. Like, I'm not fucking judging this shit.
Really?
Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
It's so funny. It's so harsh.
But you must, but because you've been there and you know how nerve-wracking it is, you've got to sort of feel for them a little bit.
Yeah, but it's all about like most of the people that have judged have already been up there and done it. So
yeah, you've got to. Yeah.
You can see who put the time in, who just put the routine in the car on the way in. You know what I mean?
Right, people phoning
throw together.
In.
Yeah,
you can't phone in something like
that.
that.
No, you totally can.
You reckon?
You totally can. Yeah, I've seen it a million times. But dudes that are actually pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Master, he did a set one year and he couldn't afford to get in, so he registered, so he could be in. He couldn't afford a ticket to get through the door, so he registered himself as a competitor.
Wow!
So that he could get in, and he did a set. It was wicked. It was so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's just bravery, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's backing yourself.
That is. Yeah.
It's very interesting place of competitive DJing thing. It's like when you look, I go on some YouTube wormholes, obviously, but you go right back to the early days of seeing like, man, there's John Course out there doing some like, man, I think it was like 88 or something. Yeah. In the DMCs man, it's just like how far it's come is bananas.
Man, it's come so far. Yeah, it's full on, isn't it?
It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. But it's about earning your stripes, you know what I mean? So gives good clout. I didn't get much. I was sort of hoping that however it went would sort of help the scratching side to get on more features and stuff. But it was a big drop off after I won because people were, I don't know, worried about asking to get me on stuff or.
Yeah, that's a.
it went pretty quiet. It's taken a few years to build up.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird like that. I know a fair few people that competed and that didn't necessarily translate into getting commercial paying gigs either.
Oh yeah, it didn't get me any gigs.
No, it just
No way, but it put me in good stead with the other scratchers. You know
well, yeah. I mean? Well, that's all you can kind of get in a lot of these subcultures is just getting respect.
That's kind of all I wanted out of it. You know what I mean? It's just like, just see what I can do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just not one of the other shit cunts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're not. Is there any plans to judge, or have they asked you to judge anything?
I'm always involved with each DMC every year because work pretty closely with Kieran, who does KC, who does organising of it, and then. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I do promo videos for the lead up to it, and then I've edited videos, filmed the whole thing on the night. So it's some way being involved or run the merch or something like that. Yeah, if I'm not competing and then judging.
Let's talk about the podcast, man.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm only 12 months into this, but you've been doing it for what, like 5 years?
Oh, I'm close to 7.
7 years.
Yeah.
Tell people about your podcast, man.
So like I said earlier, it's my younger brother and I. We occasionally get guests. It's gone a lot closer to.
Sean's been on there a few times.
Sean Ross has been on there a couple of times. regular for a good 2 years there. But so it started off as Jez and I doing our brother banter because we shared a bedroom for, the first 12 years of our lives, 15 years of our lives.
I don't mean you're close.
Yeah, so close quarters. But so basically it's just a look in. Well, it sort of started off, we wanted to document a lot of the stuff that we were laughing about, basically.
Yep.
Because it's a comedy podcast.
Yep.
Well, it's funny. It's funny to us. But then, like when we started, we weren't quite sure what it was going to be. We thought we were going to do a Lego podcast at the start.
All comes back to Lego for you,
Yeah, it does.
it?
It does. It's the hands-on creation, you know what I mean? And then after the first episode, we kind of rinsed all of our Lego knowledge. Because a mate of mine had a studio where he was building his own stuff out of. So he had heaps of stuff. So the first episode was at his place.
Yep.
Going through his stuff. But then it pretty fast turned into us documenting our lives. I've got 2 kids.
Yep.
So it's something that would be good for them to listen to in 20 years. And they're not allowed to listen now.
Yeah.
I prefer they didn't. But so we're trying to work out what it is that we actually do. And it's brother banter.
Yeah.
Stuff that, sibling kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Life stories. And for a while there, we were doing a segment called Jezbot's Diary, where when he was at high school, he was secretly keeping a diary.
Yeah.
And he found that, and so we were reading every episode. We'd read out one of those chapters. That was fucking hilarious.
So you're essentially doing what you were doing, but now you're just recording.
Yeah,
it
well,
on the internet.
this is the thing that we were saying. What is it? What is it? What's this? What's the thing? What's the thing we want to do? What are we making? And then this pod is sort of split off into a couple of different directions within the one show. Though there's a few shows within the show. So we do every second episode we do an episode called The Stees, which is more of a variety show. So there's a conversational one with guests, and then in between we do a variety show where it's just him and I talking, and it's just little topics with joke ads in between, which we record.
Yep.
Songs, skits, and all sorts of stuff. But that's like we do Wheel of Chickens. Community concerns, mysteries, just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Hundreds of topics. So we're able to basically break just the conversational thing, because it can get pretty hard to come up with something every time and then talk for an hour on it. You know what I mean?
Man, that would be tough.
Yeah, but we've got it down to fine art where we can just write 3 words on a page and then do an hour and a half.
You should be able to have banter with your brother.
Yeah. It's always pretty funny, and I know his shtick, he knows my shtick, because we shared a bedroom for 12 years. He's seen my shtick a lot.
Brothers and their shticks.
Brothers and their shticks, these guys. It's hilarious to us, and it's sort of reflected in the listenership and stuff. People get good feedback from it.
Heard you're big in India.
Big in India, yeah. That was So even that's a good little launch. We even got an episode out of that.
Yeah.
But when we checked our stats, there was a big spike in India.
There you go.
85% of our listeners were from there.
Were you talking about cricket or something?
No. Well, we suspected that they were training their call centers up to
how to talk like buggers.
Yeah. How to talk like brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people want to listen to that, where can they?
So jumping the Turnstyle, but it's a twist. So Turnstyle Records, Turstyle.
Yeah.
Style.
Yeah.
Turnstyle. And the podcast is Turnstyle, as in the one at the train station
that you jump
through.
Yeah.
TILE. And that's all about evading the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jumping over and
going against the grain.
Going against the grain and getting to where you got to get to.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so people can check that out on podcasts.
Any podcast app, we're on everything.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm only on Spotify. You're doing better than me,
Well,
man.
that's it, man. We considered doing video, but I do heavily edit the episodes because we really craft each episode to be pretty special, you know.
Yeah.
And that works for us a lot. So I do a lot of editing. So for every hour of recording, there's 2 hours of editing.
Yeah,
so
man.
we're up to like episode 390 or something.
Fuck, that's big.
Yeah.
See, I just throw the intro at the start and the outro, and cut in,
Yeah,
cut out
and I did that.
Yeah, and you did that as well. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun. I don't think I can't say us stopping. It was a weekly thing, and we were doing 2 a week for ages just to get numbers up and all that kind of stuff. And that's where we sort of honed it in. What we do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we do is watch along with. We've got this other split off, which is play-alongs, where we'll play an episode of like not Wheel of Fortune. What's the Price is Right?
Oh,
but from the 70s. And then we'll do commentary over that and
That.
play along with the games and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So
that's
play-alongs
cool.
and yeah. So if we ever get together, we don't really feel up to doing the full conversation. There's other ways we can split it up.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, awesome. I was talking about my editing, and I just left that whole section on me here. So
Yeah, right.
I fucked up my, but so I can
fine.
go back in post.
Okay,
and
cool.
I can sort that out.
Yeah, that's right. Should I just sit here like this and then you can get a freeze frame of me? Yeah.
No, I try not to edit mine too much.
No, it's good.
Let's go back to Aussie hip hop for a little bit.
Yep.
Where, like, you're obviously always going to be involved in it, but what do you think about where it's at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's coming back. It's coming back. There's a whole lot of dudes that are in it right now. Grizzly and Outpost and some of those boys that they're like starting up their own little niche.
Mm-hmm.
I think Epic's getting pretty heavily involved with them, and there's a lot of video stuff happening, and that's pretty cool. So I see a lot of coming up. There's a few years there where everybody was just imitating the trap and the mumble rap and all that kind of stuff, and I thought it was going to go in that direction, but there is still some staunch dudes out there. It's still good to see.
But you don't just like that kind of music. You like all sorts of hip hop.
Everything.
But yeah.
Yeah. So anything I can make, I'll make. You know.
Yeah.
So who knows what's next? But yeah, just keep working at it. You know.
Do you don't know what if you had to sort of forecast where you reckon it's going? Where do you think it's going?
Probably work more with more international stuff. Like I did stuff with Wu-Tang, did some stuff with, did some cuts on.
Man, tell us about that
Jurassic. Yeah, that was more through correspondence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did a tour with Alcoholics.
Yep.
And they came into the studio and dropped a track. That's on the new mixtape. So they did.
Are they the Licks or are they still the Licks? The Licks now. Yeah.
And they did some custom verses for me in payment for me doing cuts on one of their 7 inches.
It's good.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did something with Be Real.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a lot of names along the way.
Well, yeah.
But most correspondence and most of those jobs haven't come directly to me. It's been other dudes that have organised it, and then they want really good cuts on it to impress everybody else, and then I get to be on.
Do you get your name on the record?
Yes.
So tell us about the Wu-Tang one, man. That's pretty fucking...
Yeah, so I went to New York and I hooked up with a mate of mine, Mars, and he runs the Battle League over there.
Yep.
I Battle TV, I think it's the app. And they were doing a show at Rake One's shoe shop.
Oh,
And yeah, so I got on that spot, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then hooked up with one of the dudes from Killer Bees. Yeah, so it was yeah, just doing some cuts, you know, like just put a good word in, represent best you can, and then hopefully, you know, lead gets followed up.
That's it.
Yeah.
And like you said, the credits. There's some big credits, man.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Be Real? Was that for like Cypress Hill stuff or just his personal?
Just he was a guest on somebody else. So like, and I think that was through Mama Dosa. She got on a track, and on the other end, she got on a track from dudes from New York, and on the other end, they'd organised it from the other direction. So most of the time, I never get to meet these dudes, but I get to hear the track and they get to hear me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And for that one in particular, are they giving you the direction? Are they giving you the sample?
For that, I just got the song pretty much ready.
Yeah.
So then I've got to add to it, you know.
And
I did give them heaps of back and forth because I wasn't dealing with him directly. So
and you want to nail it.
Yeah, I wanted to nail it.
Yeah.
So it was all that. And then I think I did, for that I got permission to get the stems and then I did a remix for it as well.
Yeah, sick. And that's out now?
That's been out. Yeah, that was out for years. I'll have to even look at what it is, to be honest.
Man, we got to check that out.
Yeah, well, it's bad form. Not remembering off the cuff. Maybe we'll put it in the liner notes.
We'll put it in there, man. Yeah. This is one that's we're getting to this stage now where we were even talking about it earlier with mixing and mastering, that AI is playing a part in this sort of stuff, and even things like with Serato, the stems thing. Like, there was no way to isolate just a vocal with the push of a button years ago, and you'd know that from the production thing.
Yeah.
Do you like where that whole thing's going?
Well, it's how we use AI, not how AI uses us.
But do we get a choice?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't. But I use it a little bit to sort of like help out a bit. So with the stems, it's wicked.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. And then with producing visual content, AI, as long as I can combine it with something that's a little bit organic to what was on my list, you know, of skills, but using it as a tool, and like for now, most cases you've got to be the one that prompts it.
That's the thing, and I often think that I was speaking to people about this because this is obviously AI has been around for a while, but it's only become super mass consumption. Everyone has it, now, but it's almost like a skill, like being able to work Photoshop 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You have to know how to use this and prompt it properly and then refine it.
So prompt engineering.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
There you go, prompt it.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see a big surge of prompt classes.
Yeah, it'll promptly happen.
Yeah, promptly.
Yeah.
It needs to. But it's a fine art because like even just from the ground level now, trying to put in commands and get the AI to do it based on what you write is a hard task.
Yeah.
We've used it on the podcast a fair bit where we get AI generated voices and then we make our own sitcoms, like get ChatGPT or whatever it is to write the script.
Yeah.
And then starring Snoop Dogg and Trump.
Wow. Yeah.
And then in the style of them, and then get the AI voices to read it out, and then we reenact the episode, and then I can use my audio skills to make it actually sound like it's a real thing, and then later on put visuals to that. You know what I mean? So I like using it that way.
Can you use it in a way for music, like cuts wise? If you go, all right, I want Nas saying this.
Yeah, but you got to pay for that.
Really?
Right? Yeah, and I'm not prepared to pay.
No, but there must be
It's definitely
ways.
It's definitely getting that way.
Yeah.
I got like a classic example is I got a Trump voice to do a intro promo for one of our podcasts.
Yeah.
And like it sounds exactly like him, right?
This podcast you have called Jumping the Turnstile is probably the best podcast the world has ever seen.
You know what I mean?
Old Sleepy Joe loves it. Kamala loves it. We are going to make podcasts great again this year. Keep up the good work. And remember to vote Trump in the elections.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It totally
And that was
sounds
free?
like him.
That was free?
Free. That was free.
Because Trump's he's
That's
he's
it.
public domain.
That's what they want anyone to make any trash, you know. But like being able to use it in that way, and then that's good fun. But each time we do that, we're training it how to take over us.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a suspicion that the first 3 attempts of anything that we have for prompt engineering now is deliberately stuffed up so that you put more prompts in
to get what you wanted.
So that it has 3 opportunities
To
and
learn.
3 angles to learn off the same thing, even though it could have probably got it right in the first hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, that's the thing. We're essentially the beta test here.
yeah, and my brother's like, now whatever you do, just like don't be aggressive when you put your prompts in, because it's going to learn like
You've got a
"Get
short
this
fuse."
and do this fucking right, you fucking prick. It's like, oh, so this is how we treat humans, is it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't want it to learn that shit because then we're in trouble.
That's it, man. For
Thank you, please, thank you, please, thank you. I
But
love you.
Yeah, I think it is. It's always nice to practice manners, especially if it's not a real creature.
It could end us all, man.
It could. Yeah, because with some stuff that I was wanting to do with you, I'm like, I'm going to reach out to these people and get them to say some stuff so then Tim can cut it up. But I'm like, do we even need to do that now? We've got the AI.
I'll definitely do that. That'd be cool as.
Well, that's,
I mean, that's a better way of doing it.
Of course. And if it's someone that I know, of course I'll reach out to them and do it.
Easy.
And some dudes are like, I don't even have a home recording. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could just record a voice memo.
Do it on your phone.
And you can work
And then
magic.
I can work, I can work it from there. Easy, easy.
We'll be doing that, man.
Yeah, let's do that.
What about this is the thing that worries me a little bit with the AI stuff is like what we're talking about before. You've got a gig to reproduce music, then they can also get a voiceover. You don't need a voice actor anymore. So
that sucks. That sucks.
This
a lot.
sucks.
There's a lot of industries that are going to really suffer from it.
Big time.
Like, the special effects industry is going to, because we saw the end of latex at the end of the 80s because of CG.
Yeah.
And
imagine being a voice actor now. Like you're basically
just
you're
sucks.
holding on for grim life.
yeah, well, that's it. That's it. It sucks.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of that already happening where they would put a celebrity in a voice actor's place because of the celebrity behind it, where the voice actor is a million times better,
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you get John DiMaggio to do something and, put fucking Tom Hanks in there? It's like, stick to your fucking area, Hanks.
Stick to being the original patient 1 of Corona.
Yeah, that's it.
I saw a thing the other day where it's like Rob Schneider is a voice actor in fucking 25 animation movies. You're like,
right.
what's he been doing lately? That's what he's been doing.
That's it. He's got a shocking case of Schneider. It is going that direction, unfortunately. But I don't see it taking over things like scratching.
No.
Personally, we could totally emulate it and totally do it, but I don't think people would be using that over someone that has a good connection.
So, yeah, that's the thing. We're in a weird place in the world now because people don't want to work, but then they also don't want to do the creative stuff anymore. So what do fucking people want to do? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's content creator. They want to get famous. They want to go viral.
They do. That's the problem. And I'm not trying to. Well, I'm going to sound like an old bastard.
Whatever.
But you've got to put in all the hard yards to go viral, and then if you did something, and then eventually you get your break, it's because you put in the hard work, and you've got the back catalogue of things people to go back and look at.
And that's always what I've tried to do is that you produce as much as you can as an unknown, so that when you do become a known and they look back on your stuff, it's like fear of missing out.
Yeah,
they'll catch up faster.
Hopefully,
and you can't just buy your way in. A lot of rappers just want to make an album, go straight to vinyl, do this, do that, and then just want to play massive shows and charge $100 to get in or whatever. It's not how it works.
No.
I mean, some people could buy their way in, I guess, but you're not going to buy clout.
And if you do get in there, what goes up must come down, and it's not going to be longevity.
Yeah, they're part of that 10-year block of dropouts. You know what I mean? That just doesn't last.
No, it's not.
Can't sustain it.
No longevity in it.
That's why when you get a new girlfriend, don't give her flowers every day. You do it every other day because she'll expect
Every other
flowers.
day? That's a lot.
But she'll come to expect it. And you don't buy me flowers anymore.
We're
breaking up, Sharon.
We've got to the point of life advice. I feel like this sounds like jumping to the turnstiles here. We don't want to be doing a comedy podcast.
No, not right now.
Do you want to let people know what else is coming up for the rest of the year and where they could reach out to you and hit you up if they wanted to work with you, making music or potentially doing some podcast stuff or even some fucking video editing shit?
That's Turnstyle Records Studio, and that's online if you just look up Turnstyle Records. But some of the other major projects is I work with another guy doing techno, and like a dance leg of the label, like Turnstyle Digital. That's Illegal DJs, and we put a video out every week. We've done like 40, 50 edits this year.
Huge.
Crazy remixes, but we've got a really good setup where he's doing stuff live through Ableton and tracking like 4 or 5 tracks at once, and then I'm on turntables, and then we do this big mashup where I'm adding acapellas over him and
Is there key clashes in that sort of stuff?
No. We got Serato, mate. Yeah,
it all
and
works.
skills.
Yeah, okay.
Serato and stems.
Okay.
Shit.
Yeah.
And so that works really well. So watch out for Illegal DJs. That's eagle as in the bird.
Yeah.
Jumping the Turnstyle, the podcast, and then stuff I'm doing on Instagram. What is it? At DJ_Rellik_Oz.
Yes.
See those.
For sure. I'll tag you in all that stuff.
But anybody can hit me up on those, and I'll say yes. Come in, I'll train you up, teach you how to cut. I don't care what it is.
Really?
I usually say that in the studio. The studio is available for anything. So if you want to come in and do a video, beat making, record, mix something, bring something in you've already done that you want to polish up, learn the ropes, watch me make beats. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything. I'll do anything.
I'll do anything.
I'll do anything. I've done horrible things for money.
That seems like a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Rellik, Timmy Taco.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Word up.
Man, big fan.